Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. It's quite nice. Have a good time. It'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday and happy weekend, everyone. What's going on? And welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for June 10th, 2023. We got a big episode this week because I have a lot of stuff to catch up on. I was not able to watch hardly any wrestling live this week, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. So I had to play catch up on a lot of the results that went on during Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, etc. Plus, we've got Forbidden Door and Money in the Bank coming up, both companies building for these shows. And there's a lot to get into, not to mention WWE unveiling yet another new championship belt last night on SmackDown. More to come. Wouldn't be surprised if we see one unveiled on Raw, and them doing something with the men's tags and the women's tags that they're also about to unify. So some belt changes, taking place in WWE, which is a good thing. The lack of creativity and laziness of the belt designs is a bad thing. So we'll talk about that later on. I also want to pay my respects and tribute to the Iron Sheik, who of course passed away this week at the age of 81. And the Iron Sheik was a big part of early little tiny itty bitty Good Mike Works memory, because he was one of the first wrestlers that I was even really aware of, and have a lot of memories of him. So want to run through a little bit of the Sheik's career and life and tribute him a little bit. In addition to that, like I said, just a lot of results to get into, a lot of Money in the Bank qualifiers. We had some championship matches this week. Gunther has surpassed 1 year, I think, as of today, as Intercontinental Champion. So Honky, time's running out, my friend. Honky meter is about to be shattered. We'll talk about Raw this past week, all the Money in the Bank qualifiers, Vince McMahon being backstage, and of course, Dynamite kicked off what's probably going to be an amazing MJF and Adam Cole feud. And Tony Khan did, in fact, announce CM Punk's return match 1 week from tonight on Collision will be a 6-man tag teaming up with FTR to take on Jay White, Juice, and Samoa Joe. So there's just a lot to unpack here, not to mention Bloodline stuff, Charlotte stuff. It's just going to be a long one. That's why we're up to 30 minutes early today, because I got to head off to work, and I wanted to make sure I gave myself at least 2 hours to bust out this podcast. So I hope you guys are having a great afternoon. I'm going to do some shout outs real quick, let you guys know what to expect on this channel this week, and say hello to the members and the Patreon supporters and all that crap. So we're going to do that now. I want to hit as many channel members as I can here first with the shout outs, knock out a couple of super chats, and then we will get into it. You guys know what to do. Please help me out and hit that thumbs up button. If you are not a subscriber and you like what you hear in this video, when it's over, I would love it if you would click that subscribe button. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers. We're moving at a pretty good pace right now. So as long as things keep going the way they are, we should be there pretty soon. And I would love if you would think about sticking around permanently with that good old subscribe button. I want to welcome Victor Colon, the Script Keeper, who I believe is a new channel member, Stephen Taylor, Zane G, Tatanani. Who else we got in the way of members? Isaac, Max Pokebra is in the house. K-Dog's Kennel, my boy. Kevin, what's up, dude? Zach Guller, I gotta shout you out as well. The Juliet is in the house. Who else? Sonic Plays, Ronnie Matthews, Deshaun Robinson, Chaz, and Isaac chiming in with the first super chat I see of $5. Thank you so much for that, Isaac. Hey, Greg, RIP to the Iron Sheik. So what does Cody do if he's not in the Money in the Bank match? Well, that's what we're going to have to talk about today, because I believe that on Monday, we have our final Money in the Bank qualifier set with Riddle taking on Damian Priest. So as of right now, no Cody in Money in the Bank. And I'm going to tell you why I don't really have a problem with that. I know a lot of our Cody scenarios have involved Money in the Bank, but it's not required for him to finish his story if WWE wants to drag this story out. Right now, the Bloodline, I don't know if you've noticed, has been destroying the ratings on Friday night. So I don't know if WWE is really in any hurry to wrap that up. They might try to drag that out in order to drag these great ratings out. Maybe they don't want to rush Cody. Maybe Cody's story ends next year. And if that's the case, he doesn't really need to win Money in the Bank. Right now, there's one man in that Money in the Bank men's field that I want to see win more than anybody else, and that's Mr. Los Angeles Knight. Know what I mean? Yeah, that's who I want to see win it. So we will be talking about Cody. I don't know what he's going to do. My guess is he's going to blow off Brock. And you guys remember last week's podcast, I laid out that whole plan for Cody to face Brock in a gimmick match, Hell in the Cell, ambulance match, stretcher match, something like that at SummerSlam. Get the shit beat out of him, but win. Cody gets taken to the hospital. You think he's out of commission. Roman then defends the title in the main event, maybe against Jey Uso, beats him. And then after the match, a bloody, broken, and beaten Cody hobbles and limps out to the ring with his briefcase to cash in on Roman right there, beating Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns in the same night to become champion. That ain't happening now. So we will talk about other scenarios for Cody as we go through the podcast here. But thanks again, Isaac. Mark Galan is here. Appreciate the $5 from you, my friend. I was kind of hoping MJF hinted that Britt's push came from being passed around like the TNT title just to piss Cole off. I think the promo battles between MJF and Cole was fun and are going to be even more fun, especially if this angle lasts as long as I think it's going to last. The fact that they're kind of like rushing this and we're getting that eliminator match next week makes me think that something's going to happen, and then Forbidden Door and some July shit's going to happen, and then Cole and MJF are going to pick things back up around All In, All Out time. That's what I'm hoping for, because otherwise, if they try to do this now, I feel like MJF and Cole at Forbidden Door, that's not what you're going to do. These need to be Forbidden Door matches. So I'm hoping that somebody like from New Japan costs Adam Cole the eliminator match against MJF, then Cole faces that person at Forbidden Door. And then MJF and Cole pick things back up later in the summer with Cole beating him for the title in London or in wherever the hell All Out is going to be. So that's kind of my hope there. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that promo later. I loved it. I really did. Not everybody likes the dirt sheet lingo and the behind the scenes stuff used in promos, but that's kind of MJF's thing. And I think in certain scenarios, as long as it doesn't become the norm in wrestling, certain guys using that stuff, I don't mind. I thought the promo battle was fun, and Cole can stand up to anyone. There's nobody I think that can out-best Cole on the mic, and I think when he's in there with somebody really, really good, it's awesome because he's going to be able to hold his own. It's not going to be one-sided. And I hope to see more great things from those two dudes. I'm happy that feud is happening. Jet the Hawk, good to see you as well. Ratnick is in the house. Ben Espinoza, I'm just shouting at everybody now. Zach Palgett, another channel member, good to see you. Danny in Oak Park is back. Nice, just got off a couple of hours ago. Happy weekend to you, my friend. Big MGM, thank you so much, my boy, for the $5. Io Sky's got to be the weirdest case of popularity I've seen. She's constantly praised by the IWC, but gets no reaction from an American crowd. You're right on with that. I mean, I never really thought about that, but yeah, Io Sky is widely regarded as just a fantastic worker. We love her and adore her. We always speak very highly of Io Sky, but when she comes out, not much of a reaction. Not sure if that's the fault of the fans or WWE or what, but she's way too talented to get no reaction from the crowd. I mean, they tried to stick her with Bayley in a faction, so it's not like WWE's not trying, but maybe they could try harder. Chad Rittenberry, good to see you. As well, I'm losing my place in line here. Ken Webb is here. Zach H is here. More channel members. And the Script Keeper. Look at there. Gifting 5 Good Mic Work Commentary memberships to Ben Espinoza, to Denny Downbad, to 5-star, to MH Nova, to 951 Dave. That is very generous of you, the Script Keeper. Thank you for your support and for being here. I want to say hello to Rodrigo. Not sure if I got you. JB, Andy Linnell. Zach chiming in with $5. By the way, I was a guest on Zach's channel last Monday. We talked about King of the Ring 1998 with Tomas, reviewed that whole show. I have a clip. I have a link to that somewhere. Crap, I'm not sure. Go check my Twitter if you want to find that. Just scroll down. You'll see where that link is. I don't think I have one available on my channel anywhere, but that was really fun joining you guys, Zach, and thanks for chiming in with your 5. Cody versus Brock in a Texas bull rope match, baby, at Summerslam. I could see that. Heard Cody pitched a dog collar match, and that was shot down. I did see a stip match is being planned for Cody and Brock, and I did see the headline that the note that it was a stipulation that we haven't seen in a while. So I think a stip with Cody and Brock, a type of stip where you can have a winner without pinning one of the guys, is probably the way to go. Texas bull rope would make sense. Anything that Dusty has done before or Dusty has had experience with seems like what they would do, probably even over a Hell in a Cell. I know I pitched a Hell in a Cell or something like that, but something like a bull rope match seems likely. The bull rope match is what Dusty fought Superstar Billy Graham in. I think that was Texas bull rope match as well. That I think was the third in their feud and in their saga. So that would be great. Attaching guys, strap match, dog collar, chain, something like that. I could totally see a match like that taking place. So we will see, Zach. I'm into whatever Cody and Brock want to do. And that's going to be a good looking match on that SummerSlam card. But anyway, that knocks out most of the shout outs there in the chat. Let me cruise over to Patreon real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, cruise to the members real quick. Shout out all these channel members right quick. We are getting close to 100 members. I said as soon as we get to 100 members, I might start shouting out just the new members only. We'll see how that goes, but we're getting close. I want to thank Red Raven Rucker, Lee T, Alex Bryant, my babe Elizabeth, Jay Lambo, Sonic Plays 64, the Script Keeper, the man, Antoine Fair, Ian Dunn, Hector, Sean Okoy, Colton, Christian Pololo, I can't ever say that. I'm sorry, my friend Brandon McNeil, Queasy, Motown Slim, Ian Dunn, Stone Cold 10X, MJ Parker, James Williams, Leo Whalen, Super Fluffy Toaster, Chaz Medeiros, Chris Ludek, Stephen Taylor, Anthony Matisse, Deshaun Robinson, Ramon Coffey, Big Mike ATP, Mike, Ken Webb, Jennifer, Titanium Titan, Josiah Blevins, Kevin, Ruben Litton, Fox Star Killer, Brady, The Juliet, Bitso, Alan Carter, Zach Palgett, Dre, Sean, Jordan Carg, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Mike Tong, Longboard, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William Boclav Lovick, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus the Entertainer, Kim, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Rick, Zane G., Chris Pereira, Michael Cuomo, John J. E. Dennett, Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs, Kennel, Max Pokebrush, Spectra, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Population 420, and the OG JJ Leg. Thank you so much for being channel members here. We are going to be doing another members-only watch-along maybe as early as next Sunday. Elizabeth is going to join me for another one, and I think we're going to try to do that next Sunday, 1 week from tomorrow, but I have to confirm that with her and what we're going to watch. So stay tuned for that, and that will also be available to all of the Patreon supporters that include Victor Cologne, CTFB, Throwing Rubber Chickens in the Ring, Kenny Ward, Anthony Del Preta, Paul Carpenter, John J. E. Dennett, William, Brandon Allen, Ramon Coffey, Zach Palgett, Joseph Hudson, Chris Cray, Chris Broski, MJ Parker, Kaylin Scott, Shane Jordan, Hendricker, Colin Delaney, Divine Ricks, Ryan, Sam Piboon, JJ, Darren Piper, Nikita, Chris Miner. Oh, shoot. My bad. Let's start over. Victor, Kenny, Anthony, William, Joseph, Chris, Divine, Ryan, Nikita, Chris, Super Fluffy Toaster, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, John Redifer, Claudio Cavadetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Michael Kumo, Naveed, and Blake Moran. Thanks as always, guys. All of the content that I have available for members only will also be available on the Patreon page for the supporters over there. And all of those watch-alongs I've been doing, I have been editing those with the footage and posting them on Patreon. I've got the ECW One Night Stand ready to go. I just have to upload that and just connected my Vimeo account to that so I can have some excess content over there for you guys. And I will make anything on Vimeo that's available on Patreon available to the members and vice versa. I will make sure you guys all are simpatico. You know what I mean? So thank you to everyone who supports on this channel. You guys are the best. Let's start talking about wrestling news, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry, not time for wrestling news yet. Let's talk about what to expect on the channel. Guess what we're doing tomorrow for our watch-along? Sunday night watch-along. I was trying to decide about a June pay-per-view, maybe a Bad Blood, maybe another King of the Ring. I even thought about maybe doing it a Money in the Bank, but there's really only one Money in the Bank pay-per-view I would be willing to do a watch-along of, because most of those pay-per-views are kind of recent, and I don't really like doing modern stuff. I like doing old school stuff. The only one I think I would be willing to do is Money in the Bank 2011 with the big John Cena and CM Punk match. So we are going to do that one, but we're not going to do it tomorrow. We're going to do it 1 week from tomorrow. We're going to do it 1 week from tomorrow, June 18th, the day after CM Punk's Collision match. So 1 week from tomorrow, Money in the Bank 2011. The link is already up on the channel right now, so you can save that for next week. But tomorrow, since I couldn't think of any cool or good or decent June pay-per-view to do that I think would garner a lot of interest from you guys or fans or get some decent audience members in there, is let's just skip and start doing some SummerSlam shows. Let's get on these SummerSlams right away. So we are going to watch SummerSlam 1991 that just might have my favorite match of all time on there, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title. It's also the match made in heaven and the match made in hell when nuptials turn to napalm. So we've got that whole deal. Hogan, Warrior, the Triangle of Terror, which is also kind of topical since the Iron Sheik is in that main event. Last main event he ever had in the WWE. So we will be watching SummerSlam 1991 tomorrow. The link to that watch along is in the description, and it's also on my channel in the latest content tab. That's what's going on tomorrow. Since it's going to be a weird week, I'm probably going to be up here Monday night. I haven't done a Raw review in a while, and haven't really watched Raw in like 2 or 3 weeks. So I feel like maybe Monday night we're going to do one. So that's tentative right now. Right now I'm planning on it, but maybe if Raw really looks like it sucks, we might not do a review, but I think I'll come up here Monday night to do a Raw review. And then in terms of next week, I just need to figure out what I'm doing during the week, if there's going to be a Dynamite reaction or not. But 1 week from today, again, this is tentative. I'm going to figure all this out by tomorrow. So if you join us for the watch along tomorrow, I'll have all of this information confirmed for you. But my plan is 1 week from today to do double duty, to come up here to do the podcast like normal, and then take a quick break and do a live reaction of AEW Collision to watch that first CM Punk match back. So that's the plan as of now, unless I need to change something there, but it might be double duty next week. And then I might be here Wednesday watching Dynamite. You'll probably have some mic drops and some other crap hitting the channel as well. Gonna be a busy week, so stay tuned to that. Make sure you subscribe. And again, would love it if you would like this video. Now we can start getting into what we're here to talk about today, since I've spent 20 minutes flapping my gums. Let me just make sure we're all good in the chat and everybody's behaving. Nobody spilled nothing. All right, right on. We're good. Let's start off with some sad news this week. The wrestling world lost the Iron Sheik. Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri passed away at age 81. And this was a big loss for pro wrestling because Iron Sheik is super famous. He is a guy that I consider kind of a household name. I think people who aren't wrestling fans kind of have some sort of an idea who the Iron Sheik is, because he was very influential in his wrestling days, and he was quite the character after his wrestling days. He's very loud, outspoken, crazy, and fun, and he had one hell of a life. Now, WWE just chronicled his whole entire life on the A&E biographies just this past season, I believe, right? And that was a really good look and dive into his personal life, especially before his wrestling career, and how he got to the States and got into wrestling. He was born in Iran in 1942 with very, very little money, and grew up pretty poor, but also grew up idolizing a famous Iranian Olympian wrestler. And he went on to become a bodyguard for the Shah, and he was legit. He was a legit tough guy. But after after his idol had passed away, he decided to leave Iran and come to the United States, where he excelled in amateur wrestling. He represented Iran in the '68 Summer Olympics in Mexico City. But then after moving to the U.S., he ended up becoming an assistant coach on some U.S. Olympic teams and won more amateur championships here in the States until he was discovered by Vern Gagne and was invited to train in Vern's camp. That very same camp included Ric Flair, the very young Ric Flair, like back in 72 or 73 or whatever year that would have been. He worked all over the territories. He worked AWA. He went to WWF after going and went back to the AWA. He worked Jim Crockett Promotions. He worked Texas. He worked Mid-South. He worked Georgia. He worked Florida. He worked everywhere. And when he came back to the WWE in '83, that was when they decided to bring him in to become what would be probably, in my mind, the most famous transitional champion in wrestling history, transitioning the title from Bob Backlund, leaving the era of Backlund and Bruno, which had run for 13 some odd years in the company. If you take away, the Pedro run and the Graham run, those two guys really dominated the WWE scene, and to make this transition into Hogan was a big one. Now, we'd seen Ivan Koloff, Stan Stasiak as transitional champions, moving the title, from Bruno to Pedro, or Pedro to back to Bruno, or whatever. But this one was a whole different story, because not only were you just, changing champions, you were changing visions. And for Iron Sheik, who kind of developed the Iranian gimmick in AWA, because at that point, before then, he was just kind of wrestling under his real name. And then he started wearing the headdress and becoming this, evil foreign heel. And that was perfect for the early 80s in WWE, because prior to then, I think our relationship with Iran was pretty good. But when things got heated, he was the perfect guy. Hulk Hogan is this huge American superhero, and they brought in Bob Backlund, brought in Iron Sheik to face Backlund. Sheik had already faced Backlund years before for the title and came up short. And this time they ran the angle. I remember this as a kid. Sheik used to do those big clubs, those swinging clubs or whatever they're called. And they did one of those deals on TV where Bob Backlund, Sheik would challenge people to do the clubs. What I can do is don't chant the USA, USA. I can't do the Sheik's accent. I wish I could do better. I could do a better Sheik and fuck you in the ass with my dick and not the beer bottle. I just wish I could do better Sheik impressions, but I cannot. And he challenged Mr. Bob Backlund to do the swing things, and Backlund does it, but Sheik attacks him, hurts his neck. That leads to the Madison Square Garden match, where Sheik puts him in the camel clutch. The already injured neck of Bob Backlund, a very concerned Arnold Skoland, throws in the towel, and Bob Backlund, after holding the title for nearly 5 years, loses to the Iron Sheik, and this evil heel wins the title. That was the day after Christmas in '83. 1 month later, January 23rd, 1984, we are about 7 months away from the 40-year anniversary of this match, is when Hulk Hogan was brought back into the WWE, taken from Vern Gagne to be their new face of the company. And they put him 1 month after coming. Hogan was booked Christmas night in AWA. Hogan was booked Christmas night in AWA, and he no-showed. Less than 1 month later, 30 days later, he's in WWE winning the title. That's insane. And they booked Hogan against the Iron Sheik, very famous match. It was a match that I remember vividly as a kid. And Hogan dropping the leg on the Sheik after countering the camel clutch, and just that iconic, hooking the leg, and he's going, yeah, and Sheik is kicking, and Hogan wins the title. That was an iconic image for the first 10 or 15 years of me being a wrestling fan, was just that image of Hogan winning that championship that night, because that 3 count was the start. When that hand hit 3 for the final time, the business was never the same. And even though it was Hogan that was the driving force behind that, you got to give Sheik some credit, because he was the perfect heel. I think Hogan would have gotten over regardless of whatever heel he pinned that night, but Sheik, being that specific heel, the evil Iranian against the American hero, you couldn't have scripted it better. And it was an iconic moment, and it was the beginning of Hulkamania. It was the beginning of what WWE would become. And Iron Sheik, was a big part of that. Now, there's always been the rumor that Sheik says Vern Gagne offered him $100,000 to break Hogan's legs. Greg Gagne has debunked that a few times, but Hogan and Sheik both swear by it. And Sheik has always been, he's always been a guy like to kind of do business. He seems very loud and abrasive at times, but even though he's got this feud and this beef with Hogan, anytime they were together, it was, oh, I love you, Hulk Hogan, I love you so much in the US of A. So with Sheik, you never really knew, but he was a guy that at the end of the day that always did business. And I think WWE and Vince McMahon always had a soft spot for Sheik. He was one of the first LJN figures I ever owned. I think the first one I ever got was Nikolai Volkov, and actually I think I got Volkov and Sheik. I got them in the tag team set. I owned Volkov and Sheik before I owned a Hulk Hogan doll. They were the first ones I had. I got them for my birthday in 85 or 86 or whatever year, birthday or Christmas, opened up the tag team set of Sheik and Volkov. So after Sheik lost the title, he would team with Volkov. So now you got the evil Iranian with the evil Russian, and they're teaming up. They were managed by Blassie. They won the tag team titles at WrestleMania 1 before dropping them back, I think, to Wyndham and Rotunda. And then Blassie, he was kind of winding down his career, so he sold Sheik and Volkov's contracts to Slick, and that's when they were managed by Slick going into 1987, going into WrestleMania 3. And then shortly after that was the big story of Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Iron Sheik getting pulled over together, babyface and heel, riding together, 2 guys who are feuding no less, in 87, getting pulled over with cocaine and shit in the car. And they got in all sorts of trouble for that. They both got fired. Duggan got brought back. Sheik got brought back as well the following year. He came back in 88. And I remember watching him once on TV. He wrestled one TV match. And I'm like, holy shit, the Iron Sheik is back. I didn't even really understand where he was. I think I knew about the arrest because my dad was talking about it when it happened. He was like, oh, did you hear the wrestling is fake? I'm like, you're just figuring this out now, Dad? And he's like, baby faces and heels, or Sheik and Volkov were pulled over. So I remember him talking about that. But Sheik was brought back in 88, but it didn't last long. He was gone in just a couple of months, I think. He had a stint in WCW for 2 years. I think they forgot to renew his contract and he got paid for an extra year. He didn't do much there. And then, after his stint in WCW in 91, he came back into the WWE as Colonel Mustafa, joining Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan and their whole Iraqi sympathizer gimmick that they were doing. And he was brought in after Slaughter won the title to be part of the Triangle of Terror. And they're going to be in the main event of the Summerslam we're going to watch tomorrow night right here on the channel. And I remember that being so weird as a kid, or being a teenager. I guess I was 15 at the time. But when Sheik came back in, I'm like, what are they trying to do here? Are they trying to tell me that this is not the Iron Sheik and this is Colonel Mustafa? He's wearing the same fucking shoes, the pointy tip-ass shoes. And I just thought it was really cool that Sheik and Slaughter were together after they feuded. After Sheik lost the title, he had a big feud with Slaughter as well back in the 80s. So to see them come together, I thought was just really cool as a fan because of their history, and it felt like WWE wasn't acknowledging that. But then they started to. I remember seeing in a magazine that they acknowledged that he was the Iron Sheik, and I think they might have mentioned it a couple of times on commentary as well. But for a while there, it sounded like they were trying to put him over as a completely different guy. Well, who the fuck are you guys kidding? And I think it was kind of cool to see Colonel Mustafa, Iron Sheik, back in WWE after all of these years kind of feuding with Hogan again. We're going to see Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan in the ring together tomorrow night. in 1991, which even at that time, my 1991 brain was pretty amazed to see that, given where Sheik was in his career. So, that was pretty much it for Sheik. After that angle ran its course, he was there until like 92. I think he was in the Rumble in 92, but then that was it for Sheik. And he would just be back in sporadically throughout the years. Came in to manage that Sultan and Tiger Jeet Singh, or Tiger Ali Singh, whatever that was about, back in like the mid-90s. His Hall of Fame induction is one of my favorite Hall of Fame inductions of all time, just because they couldn't get him off the stage. Every time he thought it was over, he would just keep coming back and say, I would just like it to say, I just wouldn't like it to say. They're trying to get him away, and the crowd is cracking up. Austin is like red-faced in the crowd laughing so hard. It's so fun. It's right up there with Bobby the Brain Heenan. But Sheik's life, wasn't without its tragedies as well. He dealt with substance abuse. This is a guy that, was brought up is to never touch alcohol and drugs based on his, beliefs. But once he got here to the U.S. and got involved in pro wrestling, though, that goes away pretty quick. And the Temptations took him over, and they got a hold of him pretty well. Unfortunately, Sheik suffered a ridiculously horrible tragedy in 2003 when his daughter, Marissa, was murdered by her boyfriend, to the point where, Sheik even plotted to kill the dude in court, putting a razor blade in his mouth and the whole thing, until the family stopped him. And his tribute to his daughter was to get clean for her, and to be sober. And from what I understand, he pretty much did. He was still completely out of his mind. He had a lot of crazy antics. His Howard Stern clips have been floating around Twitter all week. And it's just so funny how Sheik is just a different cat. Like, some of the things he says in these interviews with Howard Stern, how he's just going so crazy. I fuck you in the ass. I fuck your sister. I fuck your... Anybody else saying this, I would be disgusted. But for some reason with Sheik, no matter what he says, I'm not offended. I'm not offended. It's Sheik. Like, he can say the most ridiculous shit, and I know he's just out of his mind. He's just crazy. It's harmless, for the most part. And I find myself never getting offended no matter what horrendous things came out of his mouth. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was always very, very entertained by whatever he was doing, even when he was kind of going nuts. He was always yelling, fuck you, motherfucker. He's just always like that. And that's just part of who Sheik was. His Twitter account's one of my favorite accounts to follow, even though we all know it hasn't been him running it. But it sure seems like it's with the capital letters and fuck you and this stuff. So it's great. And his Twitter account did post a very long statement on his death that I'm yet to read, actually, but I will get around to that. But this is a very sad loss for wrestling because, it's not a tragic loss because Sheiky baby, he lived to be 81, Bubba. There's nothing wrong with that. He lived a great and fantastic life, and I'm glad his life didn't end earlier. I'm glad that it didn't end in a tragic way. I'm glad he didn't die when he was 60 or when he was 50, and to make it to 81. I think given the type of life that Iron Sheik led, he's anything but humble, Bubba. He is a absolute fucking legend. And rest in peace to the Iron Sheik. Big chunk of my early wrestling childhood is now gone, and that's pretty sad. But just wanted to offer my tributes and feelings on the Iron Sheik. Rest in peace. Before we get into the next order of business, let me knock out another super chat or two. I see Chaz Medeiros coming in as I say that. 2 heel champions before Hogan died this year. What the hell does that mean? Before Hogan died? I don't know what that means, Chaz. I'm having trouble understanding that. Deshaun, appreciate the $2. Who remembers when the Sheik was on Jerry Springer? I don't. He was on Jerry Springer? That kind of rings a bell, but I didn't know that he was on Jerry Springer. I could see that. Is he the father of the Cash Me Outside girl's baby or something? That would be really awesome. Yeah, exactly, Max. You're right. 81 is a full age. There's nothing tragic about that. We, as wrestling fans, deal with a lot of tragedies. So many wrestlers over the last 25, 30 years have died ridiculously young, but with some of these guys, that are living full lives, look how long superstar Billy Graham lived to be, who just died a couple of weeks ago. So Sheik and Billy Graham were, 2 of the first champions in my wrestling life. Superstar Billy Graham was champion when I was born, on the year I was born. And then my first 5 years of life was Backlund, and then into Sheik, and then into Hogan. Or no, first 7 years of my life was Backlund and stuff. So it's a big deal. A lot of my childhood fizzling away. It's very, very sad. Daniel, Mendiola, good to see you, my friend. Oh no, recovering from surgery. Diverticulitis is no joke, and this video is helping get by. Hope all is well, Greg. Same to you, Daniel. Hope you feel better. Thank you so much for chiming in with that super chat, and best of luck in your recovery. We've heard about diverticulitis just, with the Brock Lesnar stuff, and I've known a few other people who have dealt with it, and I know it's gnarly. And all the best to you, Daniel. Thanks for being here, and good luck in your recovery. I do want to just touch briefly on, even though this is kind of out of place in my notes, about Mercedes Mone. It's kind of a bummer that she got injured because it does look like there was plans to bring her in for Forbidden Door, and that's really a bummer. Tony Khan was interviewed by Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso, where he said he can't really comment on whether or not there were plans, but mentioned that if there were any plans, those are no longer possible due to the injury. But just based on Tony Khan's, vibe in that, it makes it sound like a Mercedes Mone AEW appearance or match is still very possible, and there's a big potential for that in the future. And that would be great if she could come in and do All In or All Out, especially All In. If she could do some match in London, would be amazing. So it's a shame that she got injured, because she probably would have worked an AEW match here at Forbidden Door, and that would have been really, really cool to see. But it does sound like Mercedes in AEW is probably going to be in our future, and that's not all that surprising. She leaves WWE to go do New Japan stuff, and she's free and clear from them and wants to have a little bit of fun before probably returning. I still believe that Sasha Banks will return to WWE. But in the meantime, whatever she's doing now, I think I would be disappointed, actually, if she didn't come in to AEW. At this point, if she had this run and never passed through their doors and just went right back to WWE, that would be a bummer. I want to see her in a lot of environments. So hopefully she can get healthy, and that AEW match or appearance will be in our future as fans. Got to congratulate Gunther, who has just surpassed 1 year as Intercontinental Champion. I think today might be the 1 year mark for him, defeating Ricochet last June and carrying the title ever since. I had him pegged to lose it back at WrestleMania. But I said even before WrestleMania in my predictions that I was totally on board with him holding that title until September and breaking the Honky Tonk Man's record. I didn't think that was really going to be likely, given the fact that he had Sheamus, a big feud with Sheamus, and McIntyre standing in his way, and he beat both those fuckers. So as soon as that match was over, I'm like, you can't take the title off him now. If he's going to have a match and look that strong, keep the title on him and have him break. Somebody has to break Honky Tonk Man's record. Maybe WWE doesn't give a shit about breaking the Honky Tonk Man's record. Maybe fans don't give a shit about breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. Well, I do, because I don't like Honky Tonk Man. I don't like the fact that Honky Tonk Man is the longest running Intercontinental Champion of all time. It drove me nuts as a 10-year-old, and it drives me nuts as a 45-year-old. He can't be the guy to have the longest workhorse title reign. You know what I mean? Do you know how whack that is? When you have a title lineage that includes names like Brett, Perfect, Shawn, Steamboat, Savage, Honky is the guy that's holding this thing the longest? It's time to change that. Gunther is the man. Gunther is unstoppable. Have him break Honky Tonk Man's record. You will never get another chance to break this record. It will not happen again. This is it for WWE. If they pass on this, there will not be another Intercontinental Champion to hold the title for 14 or 15 months in probably another 20 years. Like, that's how long it's going to be to come across this again. So give him the record. You need to create some new records anyway. Get some, you got this big milestone with Roman. They made a big deal about his 1,000-day shit. So I feel like Gunther should be another guy they make a big deal of. I have even said that Gunther, once he moves into a world title program or becomes a world title contender, he doesn't have to necessarily lose the Intercontinental title to do that. Why can't you just keep him strong through it? What if he gets to the record and then he comes out and interrupts Roman Reigns 1 week? Yeah, you have milestones. I got milestones too, bitch. It's no longer Honky, it's Gunther. So you've been WWE champion forever. I've been Intercontinental champion forever. Why don't we fight about it? That could be cool. You could book a big, huge pay-per-view match somewhere. Maybe Survivor Series. Who knows what they're even going to do at Survivor Series? What do you guys think? Are we back to that champion and champion shit, or is it going to stay War Games? I don't know. I'm a little worried. We're going to go back to that champion versus champion crap, which we might, but that would also perhaps give us Rollins and Roman, which might not be horrible. But just want to congratulate Gunther. he's one of my favorite people in the company. He has so much potential. There hasn't been like a Brock level believable badass who's just a heel and winning clean. I don't like to see Gunther like cheat to win a lot. It's okay to do that sometimes, but for the most part, we haven't really seen a heel that just wins since Brock Lesnar. And Gunther, I think, is going to wind up just kind of being babyface throughout this anyway, just based on his work. But right now, he's still a badass, and I want to see him keep rolling. And I don't think you're going to have him go this long and get all the way up until 2 months away from Honky's record and then not have him beat it. If he's made it this far, if he made it past WrestleMania and he's made it to the year mark, why can't you go 2.5 more months or whatever the hell it is? Let me see. June, July, about 3 more months now. 3 more months, nearly exactly. I think September 8th is the day that he will officially break Honky's record. So you should just do it. Just do it. I want to talk about Magnum TA's Dark Side of the Ring real quick, but before I do that, let me chime in with JB's Super Chat. Appreciate that 10 spot from you, my friend. Just a small donation. Channel deserves more views. Level-headed takes. Well, thank you so much for that, man. Appreciate the kind words. And yeah, I would love more views as well, but I'm also very, very happy with the channel's growth, especially recently. And I'm nowhere near the biggest or the best in the YouTube wrestling community, but I'm no jabroni, and I consider that a success. So thank you so much, JB. I appreciate it. And a lot of that success is due to you guys. It's not due to me. It's due to your loyalty and all that stuff. So appreciate it as always, my friends. Let me see. I'm reading some of these comments here. Yeah, sorry, I can't read everything. I'm just trying to run through here and see if there's anything I need to jump out and mention. You'd be happy with either champion versus champion or war games. Yeah, the champion versus champion stuff I just didn't like because it books them into a corner for Survivor Series every year. Maybe there's a champion versus champion match you don't really want to do. And, I just feel like that's an obstacle that they stick in their way, just like those gimmick pay-per-views like Hell in the Cells and TLCs. Stop doing that. But then again, War Games is kind of the same thing. So if you have War Games on the calendar, that means you have to have an issue worthy of a War Games match going into Survivor Series. So either way, if you stick a gimmick on there, then especially gimmick matches or something, then you might find yourself in a tight spot. I don't know. So I don't know what the right answer either is for Survivor Series. Maybe they bring it back old school. I mean, there was talk at one time of Vince wanting to do away with the Survivor Series, and they talked him out of it. But I don't know if the 1987 format can really work today. I don't think anybody would really care about just a bunch of matches like that. So we'll see what the future of Survivor Series is. We don't really know at this point. Dark Side of the Ring ran episode 2 this past Tuesday night on Magnum TA. The first episode was on Chris and Tammy, which we reviewed last week, was really dark. This one was a little easier to watch because, Magnum TA survived his affair. And his accident, he was able to walk again, live a somewhat normal life, although his wrestling career was over, and that was very tragic. He's still alive and in good spirits to this day. And I think that aside from his accident, that's a very dark part of wrestling, but his story isn't necessarily dark. You know what I mean? I mean, every wrestler has their issues, their infidelity, their marriage problems, things like that. Magnum TA was no different. But when I think about all of the tragedies in wrestling, all the really, really dark careers, the traumatic lives and the tumultuous road that a lot of these men traveled down, Magnum TA just didn't seem like a guy that would need to be featured in this way. You can certainly do a documentary on his career and his tragic accident and all of that. But, I think of Dark Side of the Ring being more, behavioral driven by, whoever they're chronicling, them being crazy or fucked up or whatever. Magnum TA, I don't think really had any more problems than anybody else in the business, and was actually a little bit cleaner than most. But I was not aware of the Buzz Sawyer story. I did not know that Magnum gave this guy $10,000. Back then, adjusted for inflation, how much that is now, gave Buzz Sawyer all that money to train him to wrestle, and then Buzz skipped town on him, and he had to go track him down. And then Buzz ended up training him. He claims that Andre, another thing I didn't know, he says Andre the Giant is the one who suggested the Magnum name because Magnum TA had that mustache, and Magnum PI was a big show on back then in the 80s, and Tom Selleck was an icon in the 80s. I'm half-ass related to Tom Selleck, by the way. He's like a distant cousin of mine, true story. And he did look alike. It's the same reason why Rob Van Dam was Van Dam, because Rob Van Dam facially looked like Jean-Claude Van Damme. They look alike. That's why Rob took the name. And Andre apparently is the one that suggests Magnum call himself Magnum TA for Magnum Terry Allen. And I remember the first time I ever saw Magnum TA or was conscious of who Magnum TA was. It wasn't on TV. It was in a magazine. Most of my introductions to early 80s or 70s wrestlers was on magazines. Very, very little of this was on TV. And I remember when I saw Magnum TA in a magazine, I'm like, Magnum TA, you mean like Magnum PI? Even at that age, I knew exactly what they were, what that was a playoff on. And they talked a lot about in the documentary about just his unique, or I guess I wouldn't say unique, but his just great look that he had. When he first got started, they couldn't really find a look for him until they put him on a motorcycle and they kind of gave him that, the badass country boy American look. And he pulled it off great. He was, women were going crazy for him. He had the mullet, he had the big body, he had the leather jacket, the motorcycle, the mustache. Women went nuts for him. And he had a really, really good look. And they chronicled a lot of his feuds in the NWA. Didn't talk much about the Tully stuff, but talked about the Nikita Koloff feud and all of that in the U.S. Championship and the plans to put the title on Magnum and for him to be the one to beat Ric Flair. Those plans were in place. The sky was the limit for this guy. And then the car accident happened. And I always got confused in my head. So I thought maybe this was a motorcycle accident. It was a car accident. He was in his Porsche or whatever red car he bought, and it was raining, and he hydroplaned right into a tree, and they had to use the jaws of life to remove him. And they said he was going to be paralyzed and he wouldn't be able to walk again. And he was able to walk again. He was able to get out of the hospital bed and actually make an appearance in the NWA shortly after this. But he was in the hospital and ICU for a long time. They even told a crazy story how the heels had to be snuck into the hospital to see him, like Flair and Nikita and guys like that had to be snuck in at night through the back door, because even then, even in a situation and scenario as grave as this, you have to protect kayfabe. And the heels could not show any signs of sympathy or sadness for this. They had to remain straight, and that was probably pretty tough to do. And a lot of them weren't able to see Magnum because the hospital was always crawling with fans and people there showing support and flowers and all this stuff. And for them to have to be snuck in like that to see him was a pretty crazy story. But he remained in good spirits through all that, despite the fact that it's probably dawning on him and occurring to him that his wrestling career is over. And this is a guy that was set to be launched and win the World Heavyweight Championship. I personally think that big gold, that 10 pounds of gold, will look pretty damn good around the waist of Magnum TA. I thought he would have been a great champion. And they talked a lot about how he could have rivaled Hulk Hogan in the NWA. He could have been NWA WCW's version of him. And that would have been really interesting to see how that would have played out, because he would have had that Southern wrestling popularity that Dusty had, that Flair had, and the guys like that. He had, there's just a different vibe in the South. I can't describe it. I used to live there. I've been around this. I know how they are. And Magnum was just an amazing looking star for that time in that territory. It would have been interesting to see how he would have paired up with Hogan running one company and Magnum running the other, two big baby faces. I still think Hogan, just his whole look and his size, I mean, he really did look like a superhero. Magnum was in great shape, but Hogan was ridiculous. And we all know why. And it would have been interesting to see how they would have compared. But then again, Flair did just fine and was always considered as good, if not better, or as big a star, if not better, than Hogan, even though he didn't have the look and the superhero and the WWE money machine behind him. Magnum TA could have given Hogan and Vince McMahon a run for their money. But what would have happened? What would have happened when they did that? Sure, Magnum would have been World Heavyweight Champion, probably would have dropped the belt, probably would have won it back, probably would have been a two-time NWA champion at some point. But then, they alluded to this in the documentary. Would that success have been enough to offset the bad business decisions that the Crockett's were making that put them in the red and put them in the financial hole. And, David Crockett was on, Jim Crockett passed away recently. Davy Crockett was on the documentary, and he claimed that had those plans been set in motion and Magnum never gotten injured, that might have been enough to fend off those problems, and they wouldn't have had to sell to Ted Turner. I'm not sure. I think it's very possible that even with Magnum as champion, they still would have had those problems, and they still would have had to sell to Ted Turner. And if they did that, then you still would have had to deal with Jim Herd and all the other shit going on there, which means Magnum, like Ric Flair, could have very well left and gone to the WWE. And a lot of people said, oh man, could you imagine if Magnum TA would have gone to the WWE, the star that Vince McMahon would have made him? I don't know, maybe Hogan was there. How big of a star would he have been with Hogan there? How big of a star would Hogan have let him be? Remember when Barry Windham came in? They made him the Widowmaker. When Mark Calloway came in, he was the Undertaker. When John Nord came in, he was the Berserker. They could have brought a great talent like Magnum TA in and called him Tom Chelik or something. Vince would have done something stupid with him. It's very possible he would have put him in a stupid gimmick or just make him Biker Man or I don't know, just something generic, that it would have been up to him then to get over. So there's no guarantees that Vince would have made this guy a star, because I think what made him a star was just kind of his look and his vibe. He didn't really need a gimmick. Yeah, he had the Magnum name, but he didn't need any other crazy gimmick at all. He was just that. And that's really all he needed. I feel like Vince would have tried too hard with him, tried to do stuff with him, maybe even made him a heel, like a quiet, silent heel, instead of a charismatic babyface. And that might have been because of the political BS behind the scenes. So I'm not convinced that Magnum TA going to WWE would have automatically resulted in superstardom for him. I don't think that WWE would have pushed him like that. They might have, but I just find that hard to believe with Hogan there. It would be hard for Hogan to share a spotlight with somebody like that. Not to mention Savage and other guys there. Ric Flair coming in, Sid coming in. A lot of guys were there, and it would have been interesting to see how he would have fared in that. And then if he did not go there and he stayed in WCW, then he would have lasted there until 94 when Hogan would come in. And then instead of Bash at the Beach, Hogan and Ric Flair, it might have been Hogan and Magnum TA, and Hogan would just beat him. So I'm not convinced that Magnum would have become a bigger star than Hogan had he not gotten injured, but it certainly would have been interesting to see how he would have fared as NWA champion, especially at the same time that Hogan was WWE champion. It would have been fun to watch that play out, but that was robbed of us due to the car accident, and unfortunately, Magnum TA never wrestled again. But he's remained positive and in good spirits throughout this whole thing. I mean, he's done countless interviews for WWE and documentaries. We've seen him a lot over the years, and he's made appearances, and he's always been pretty honest in his life. They interviewed his ex-wife as well, where she was honest about the infidelity and the cheating problems before he got injured. And then after his injury, they stayed together a couple of years and then split up. But he never came off once in the documentary as bitter, as angry, frustrated, miserable, anything like that. He's, open, honest, and seemed to really make the best of his situation. And I think that's great, because it is tragic, and it's got to keep you up at night. It would me, knowing that, God, if I just wouldn't have driven the car that one specific way, my life would have been completely different. And that's got to be a tough thing to live with. And I commend anybody who can live with that type of regret and put on a brave face. That's pretty amazing. So it was a very, very good episode. But when I think of Dark Side of the Ring, I think of people like Sonny, and just dirty, rotten pieces of shit, and I don't really, or just really, really sad stories. Owen, and even what happened to Benoit and his family and stuff. But, Magnum had a tragic situation occur. But his entire life and career was anything but dark. It was just, that one moment. And I think what he made of his life after the accident is anything but dark. I think, I think he shines light on people who might be in a similar situation to him. He could be, good motivation and good inspiration to, just accept and make the best of your situation, no matter how horrible it is. And, I feel like that's kind of what he did in his life. So it would have been cool to see what would have happened without him being injured. But another good episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I actually don't know which one they're doing this Tuesday. I didn't even look. Gorilla Fan, was Don Callis the guy who managed Kurgan in '97? Oh, yeah, that was the Jackal. That was the Jackal. Let me see. Let me knock out a couple super chats before we move on to some wrestling results. The Script Keeper, thank you so much for that $5, and thank you for all of those memberships you gifted earlier on. Hey, Greg, I'm new here. I just want to know how long you have been doing this podcast. For a long time. I guess really the podcast, probably only about 7 or 8 years. 2015, I kind of turned this into more of a podcast channel. Prior to that, I was just doing sporadic videos from 2010 to 2015, but been taking it really seriously for about the past 8 years now, and it's been awesome. But yeah, I got a whole catalog, 1.3 thousand videos on my channel. Been doing it a long time, and we're about to pass 10 million all-time views on the channel, even though we're technically at like 15 million all-time views. If you add in all of the videos that are private or unlisted due to copyright stuff. But in terms of what you can see on the channel, we're about to pass 10 million views again, and that's pretty awesome. So yeah, Script, we've been doing it for a while up in here. Mark, appreciate 5 more from you as well. I lost you. Think Magnum would have been a leader of the NWO in the 90s. No, I don't. Well, it depends on what Magnum would have done. I mean, if he would have gone to WWE and left in 91 with Flair and spent the next 5 years in WWE, then came back to WCW and formed the NWO, maybe. But as great as Magnum was, Hogan was the right leader for that group. I don't like to admit it, but Hogan was the perfect guy. He was the perfect centerpiece for that. He made the most sense of anybody else, and even more so than Sting. And I think you can't really top Hogan, and Magnum would have been no different. Oh, nice. You just purchased the Iron Sheik episode on Apple. David Meldrum wants me to shout out Greg. Yo, Greg, what's up? There you go. All right, right on. What's next? Let's talk a little bit about this past week's Monday Night Raw. We're not going to talk a lot about it because I didn't watch it, but I did pick up some of the highlights. Now, there was word of Vince McMahon being backstage at Monday Night Raw this week, and I wasn't really planning on watching Raw anyway. I kind of eyeballed the show on Monday, but I wasn't really on my radar too hard. But I read that news earlier on in the day, and I'm like, well, Raw is in Hartford. It's like right there next to the headquarters. I don't know where the headquarters are these days, but Hartford is not far at all from wherever WWE is headquartered, in Stamford or wherever, just probably an hour drive to the building. So that didn't shock me. But of course, social media lost its mind. Up, he's there and blah, blah, blah. So, and it's been constant since the sale about Vince and this paranoia. It's like some people on Twitter just sit there and wait for any Vince news that they can find, just so they can jump on this obsession they have with Vince McMahon being around. I don't know how many times I have to like lay this out. We are still, no matter what, in so much better of a situation than we were a year and a half ago when Vince was still there, fully in charge at Gorilla every week. This scandal, this hush money, all this nonsense that happened to Vince, the retirement, the sale, him coming back into creative but not being in the weeds and working remotely, this is still better. This is still better than where we were. It's going to be very hard to remove Vince McMahon. He's a fucking barnacle, this guy. He ain't going away without a fight. He's old. He's crazy. And I've accepted that. And I basically recommend that you guys do the same, because there's nothing you can do about it. What do you want us to do? Vince McMahon is back making decisions again. You have to stop putting every single bad decision on Vince McMahon. Triple H can be stupid too. Yes, he can. He's been stupid plenty of times. I like Triple H. I'm thrilled that he's in charge of creative, at least on paper. And if Vince McMahon is making changes remotely from his phone weekly, so what? What else is new? You know, like, of course he's going to do that. He's Vince. I'm not really that concerned about it because I feel like Vince is getting old. He's going to be squeezed out eventually. You just have to have patience because the dude is fucking nuts. At least we're to the point where he's not there every week. At least we're to the point where he's not backstage flipping out, tearing up scripts, rewriting entire shows. He is miles and miles away, half the way across the country or wherever they are. And if he's texting Triple H or calling the creative team and says, I want this changed or whatever, what the fuck can you do? What can you do about it? You know, still WWE is doing a lot of things right. There's still WWE. Raw is very difficult to watch. It's 3 hours of fucking filler. And unless you're doing qualifying matches or championship matches or anything, a lot of times it's just rematches and repetitive, redundant nonsense. It's still that way, even with Vince gone. So a lot of WWE tropes, a lot of just the typical WWE stuff that we see from them is not going to go away with Vince McMahon. It's going to stay there, and we're still going to see the same typical frustrating shit that we've always seen. It's in their system. It's what they do. It's their nature. But with Vince McMahon occasionally appearing at Raw or making some text message changes to his phone. Yeah, we can flip out about all we want, but I've been always been more of a glass half full guy. And I'm like, yeah, this sucks. I can't stand Vince. He's a gross, weird piece of shit, and I want him gone from the wrestling business, but I can't do anything about it. And neither can you, and neither can your Twitter account. So all we can do is just wait for Vince McMahon to go away. At least we're at the point where he's not there all the time. And occasional Vince news, Sean Ross Sapp posted a report on Select about Vince McMahon, a lot of the talent believing that he is there making changes remotely. Well, no shit. If Vince McMahon is in control, if he's still with the terms of the sale and his position in the company, if he has the authority to make changes, he's going to do that. And I believe that when they say Triple H is in charge of creative, I believe that he is, but I also believe that if Vince McMahon sees something in creative that he wants changed, that he can do that too. Again, it's better than we were where we were a year and a half ago, and it might even be better a year from now. But, we're in this transition phase. The sale still has to go through. That whole process has to take place, and those pieces have to fall, but until then, Vince having a say in creative is fine. Vince being 1,000,000% in charge of creative is another thing. And I don't really think Vince McMahon is. I think that he's a lot less influential now than he was. Sure, he's going to make changes. Sure, he's going to demand shit happens. But like I said, it ain't like it was. So if Raw is an hour away from where Vince lives and he goes to the show, I'm not going to shit my pants. So that's my opinion on Vince McMahon. We had a few Money in the Bank qualifiers on Monday. Becky Lynch defeated Sonya Deville to qualify, and we also had Zoe Stark defeating Natalya to qualify. So Zoe and Becky made it in. On the men's side of things, let me see. We had Nakamura. No, I'm sorry. Nakamura defeating Ricochet. Is that right? Was that a qualifying match, or did Nakamura already qualify? I think he already did. Did we not get any Money in the Bank qualifiers for the men? That's crazy. I don't have any written down. Maybe we did. But like I said, Becky defeated Sonya and Zoe defeated Natalya to get in. We had Gunther defeating Kevin Owens. We had Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler defeating Katana Chance and Caden Carter in a pretty decent little match. Rousey and Baszler gave them pretty good amount of offense from what I remember. And we have more Rousey and Baszler news to talk about in a minute. Nakamura over Ricochet in a DQ. And we had Seth Rollins defending his World Heavyweight title in the main event against Damian Priest. They kind of set this up in the opening segment, but it looked like it was set up on social media earlier on in the day or on Sunday with Seth issuing an open challenge and then Priest chiming back, I'll take it. And they kind of set that up in the opening segment. And then they had the match in the main event, and it was very good. I'm just happy that we have a world championship, consolation belt or not, on Raw being defended. This gives a meaningful matches a place to happen now instead of just fucking constant filler. It's been over 2 years, Seth Rollins said, since a championship has been defended on Monday Night Raw. And this is a really good match, man. Priest, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins Money in the Bank. He'd be an excellent candidate to win Money in the Bank because he has been really strong lately, despite his losses to Bad Bunny, despite his loss here to Seth Rollins. Damian Priest has been putting in excellent work. They're kind of teasing a split with the Judgment Day. I don't even know if I'm ready for that yet. I'm not. But if they have bigger plans for Damian Priest, perhaps even turning him babyface to maybe have a big match again at SummerSlam with Bad Bunny involved. Maybe this time they're on the same side again. Maybe they're doing something like that with Priest, but he has been really impressive and just been doing quality work lately. And I'm a big old fan of Damian Priest. So next week on Raw, listen to this. We've got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on Imperium. We have Cody taking on The Miz. And in the final men's Money in the Bank qualifier, we have Riddle taking on Damian Priest. Which means, as of right now, unless something changes, no Cody Rhodes in Money in the Bank. So everybody was like, oh shit, I thought it was going to be Cody and Roman at SummerSlam. I've been saying since the beginning, regardless of whether or not Cody wins the Money in the Bank, I don't see Cody and Roman at SummerSlam. Cody could win Money in the Bank. That does not mean the matches at SummerSlam. I don't know why people think that. Oh, I just thought he was going to win Money in the Bank and challenge at SummerSlam. He still has a feud with Brock to wrap up. So Cody, like I said, I've laid out, if he wins the briefcase, he can either hang on to it or he could cash it in right away, or he could cash it in on the same night he beats Brock or something like that. But I never thought that winning the briefcase was necessary. You know, Cody's story that they're trying to tell here could go however long. We don't know. It might actually not end until next year's WrestleMania. If that's the case, then he doesn't need to win Money in the Bank. Now, Cody is already debuted in a fantastic way at WrestleMania. He won the Royal Rumble. He's main evented a WrestleMania. Do we really need him winning Money in the Bank? A lot of times we want Money in the Bank briefcases to go to people who maybe haven't won a championship before. I don't believe it needs to go that way every time. I believe big stars also should win Money in the Banks. I believe former champions should also win Money in the Banks from time to time. But this might be a good year to give it to somebody else. And there's one guy in the field right now sitting there, Mr. Yeah, that I think would be perfect. Imagine LA Knight with that briefcase. You know, he's a guy that everybody likes. Everybody likes LA Knight. He's over his shit, and WWE just isn't doing anything with him. To the point, it's like, well, how are you even going to build this guy up now? You know, he did a stupid shit with Bray Wyatt, and then everything he's just been doing on TV has not been to the level of what his talent is, basically. And I'm like, you know, if you keep dragging your feet on this guy who's already in his 40s, you're not going to have any time to build him as a main eventer. Well, what if you give him the briefcase? What if you just hotshot his ass? That's what they did with CM Punk when he came in 2008 or 2009 or whatever it was. You know, they just gave him the Money in the Bank. There, now you're the champion. We're just going to make you a top guy. You know, maybe they do that with LA Knight because they don't have the luxury of youth with this guy. They can't build him for 5 years or 3 years or give him championship runs and programs and all that kind of stuff. If they want to make a main eventer out of him, which physically and on the mic, he has the tools. He looks like a main eventer. He sounds like a main eventer. And in the ring, he ain't half bad either. I like him a hell of a lot more than I do Austin Theory. So I think that LA Knight would be a perfect candidate to win Money in the Bank. If it's not LA Knight, Damian Priest would be another option. Of course, he's got to get past his match with Riddle on Monday, which I think could go either way. But if he does, and I feel like he's been losing a lot, he should win here and gets into Money in the Bank. My 1 and 2 would be Priest or LA Knight. I'd be happy with either one of those guys winning it. So if Cody is in fact not going to be in the Money in the Bank, fine. You know why? Because one thing that does accomplish is it, you know, you can only push and give a guy so many wins and opportunities before the fans turn on him, before they start treating you like Charlotte or John Cena. If you give Cody every accolade, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania main event, Money in the Bank, admittedly, that might be a little too much. That might be a little too much Cody for the fans. So just pump your brakes a little bit. Give the Money in the Bank to, I don't want to say a younger talent, but a talent who hasn't won a championship yet or been a main eventer yet, but all the fans want to see be that way and WWE feels can succeed on that level, then that would be the best option. And Priest and LA Knight both fit that bill, both of them. Doesn't matter to me. So I'm hoping that Priest beats Riddle on Monday and moves on to Money in the Bank. And as long as Priest or LA Knight walk away with that briefcase, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain at all. It's going to be good stuff. And that means no Cody. He's going to be taking on The Miz on Monday. Who fucking cares who wins that? But like I said, we'll probably be up here on Monday doing a review about that. Let me go back to the chat. Just take a quick little peek, see what's going on. I would still appreciate thumbs up and like buttons if you don't mind. That would help. MH Nova says LA Knight has won a ladder match in WWE before. Was that an NXT maybe? NXT. Speaking of NXT, we'll talk about that now. We're going to talk about SmackDown. So let's talk about last night's SmackDown. I did not write down any ratings, but I do know they did pretty well. I want to say it was another over 2 million, 2.3 million, something like that. Dynamite was back in the 900,000s again, and Raw was about where they normally are. I think they had basketball to contend with, but SmackDown has been crushing it. Last week, they nearly pulled in 2.6 or something like that? My God. I mean, for this day and age, Attitude Era numbers, that's nothing, but, you know, you don't compare today's numbers to yesterday's numbers. You compare today's numbers to today's numbers, and SmackDown's been crushing it. And last night, they did pretty well as well. Now, the Bloodline opened up the show. No Roman on SmackDown last night. Paul Heyman was in the ring with Solo Sikoa, and they bring out Jey Uso, and Heyman informs Jey Uso that Jimmy is gone, and, you know, Roman never considered Jimmy, you know, a real big-time player or whatever. He has hand-selected you to groom as the next tribal chief. So it's more manipulation here with Jey Uso. Paul Heyman says Roman wants to groom him to be the next guy, to be the next main eventer. And tonight they've taken steps to make that happen. And Paul Heyman has arranged for Jey Uso to receive a U.S. title shot against Austin Theory in the main event. And Jay looks surprised and almost excited about that opportunity. So he kind of nods. Okay, he's going to be facing Theory for the title in the main event. Sammy corners him backstage, talks to him a little bit, still trying to get through to Jay. Don't let them do this to you. The Bloodline, he says the Bloodline was the best times of his life. And he had a great time there and making everybody laugh. And even Jay cracked a smile. It was kind of cool to see Jay and Sammy smile at each other. It warmed my heart a little bit. You can tell he's trying. Sammy's trying his best with this guy. And he basically just tells Jay to listen to his heart. So again, now we're going to be going into this Jay stuff, and I think we could get a Roman and Jay match when this is all said and done. Now, we had a few Money in the Bank qualifiers as well. I think we had, 4? Yeah, let's run through all of these and just knock out the Money in the Bank qualifiers now. So we had Santos Escobar defeating Mustafa Ali in the opener Money in the Bank qualifying match. Really good match. I had fun watching this. Just 6 spots. These guys are so crisp. Phantom Driver from the second rope for the win there for Santos. He now qualifies for Money in the Bank. We had Bayley defeating Mia Yim to qualify for the Money in the Bank. She won with the Rose Plant. Now, AJ is on commentary supporting his teammate Mia. And after the match, Scarlett shows up and she blows this red powder mist shit right in AJ's face, blows it in his face. It kind of blinds him. Cross comes from over the barricade and locks him in the cross jacket and chokes him out. That is pretty cool. And they did set up, I think they announced it for next week. It's going to be AJ and Mia Yim taking on Karrion Kross and Scarlett. So AJ and Kross feud is now upon us. So that's going to be make or break for Kross, man. I mean, I feel like he's had his run, his second run here has been massively disappointing. I didn't blame his first disappointing run on him because they brought him out in the dominatrix outfit and Vince is so fucking stupid. And none of that was his fault, but this time it just feels like he just does not connect. And he's not terrific in the ring, but I still like his look. I still just like his persona. I like the pairing with Scarlett. I like the music. I like the gimmick overall. But just something is missing and I just can't put my finger on it. So now you're in a program with AJ Styles. If you can't make any sort of program or matches good with AJ, then I don't know if there's any saving you. So this is, I feel like this can't not be good. AJ is too good and, Kross can be good in the right moments. They just have to get him in the right situations and whatnot. And so far he just, hasn't done a whole lot for me. So maybe this will change that and AJ and Kross can have a good little program here. I'm rooting for both of them. Hopefully it will be good. After that, we had I'm sorry, I got to finish. I was going in order here. Let me go back to the Money in the Bank matches. I forgot we're talking about that. The other Money in the Bank qualifiers was Butch defeating Baron Corbin. Butch now qualifies for Money in the Bank. He's an interesting one as well. Carmelo Hayes and Williams from NXT were at ringside and Corbin attacked them and there was a big pull apart after. And Corbin had a run-in with, what's-his-face, Cameron Grimes backstage. And Corbin's been beefing with some chef on Twitter, this chef that reacts to stuff, and he's been roasting Baron Corbin, to which Baron Corbin is responding. And the chef comes back and just owns him every time. I will say this, Corbin has some cooking skills. As somebody that spends a lot of time in the kitchen and has worked in restaurants my whole life and has been around a lot of great quality food and steaks and meats and shit like that, Corbin knows what he's doing on the grill. He does. But his techniques are not all perfect, and the chef does call him out for that. But Corbin is just so fucking obnoxious, just bragging about his tequila and his money. I hate people like that. But it's been a pretty fun beef between these two guys on Twitter. And, Corbin, he's got mad skills, but part of the reason why he has those mad skills is because he ain't booked for any matches, and he's home a lot. But he knows what he's doing on the grill. I will give him that. Io Sky defeated Shotzi to also qualify for Money in the Bank. And now, so that brings the Money in the Bank qualifiers to Santos and Butch on the men's side and Io Sky and Bayley on the women's. By the way, the field now for Money in the Bank, let me just read that. We've got for the women, Bayley, Becky, Zoe Stark, Io Sky, and Zelina Vega have all qualified for the women. I believe there's one more there to go. And for the men, we've got Ricochet, Nakamura, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, and the Butch. qualified for the men's, and the final spot will be filled this Monday when Riddle takes on Damian Priest. Before we talk about the new belt, let's talk about Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. Actually, we should be talking about the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, they came out to the ring for an interview, and I guess Ronda and Shayna come out. I can't remember if they call out Ronda and Shayna or what, but they're in the ring. Ronda and Shayna come out. Shayna starts talking smack. I think this team needs to let Shayna do the talking, by the way. And the baby faces, the baby faces end up attacking here when Ronda and Shayna pitch and suggest a tag team unification match. That's a perfect idea. I've never understood why the hell the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions got drafted to the main roster to begin with. That was head scratching, especially when they didn't have them drop the belts before they left. Well, what the hell are they doing here? You already have a women's tag team division that is virtually non-existent. It doesn't exist. You have 2 tag team championship belts that have been vacated 6 times, that have had all sorts of countless different combinations of champions. When I was doing my notes for the podcast here and I was looking for images for the thumbnail, I came across a picture of Asuka and Charlotte as tag team champions. I completely forgot that was a thing. My brain just deleted it. Completely gone. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot they were even tag team champions. I couldn't tell you 4 tag team champions in WWE women's history. I can't remember any of the champions, any of the scenarios. The division sucks. It's uninspiring. It's boring. It's bullshit. It has no depth whatsoever. And it's literally pointless because you have no teams. You don't have a tag team division. It's basically more like a tennis doubles division, or any sport where you play doubles. It's not really a team. You're just kind of teaming up just for this one thing. Bowling does the same shit. So there's no teams. There's no division for the tag team titles. So why do you have them? Now you have 2 sets of tag team titles. So this is a move in the right direction. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey are as dominant of a women's tag team as you will ever get in this company. They themselves have said there's not even enough women on the roster to keep them busy for more than a month. And they kind of said the same thing here in the promo. We've already killed this division. We've only been champion for a few days, and we've already run through everybody. So the next best thing is to unify these belts. That's the right decision, because what that will probably mean is that if you unify the women's tags, they should be a 3-brand floating champion, which I believe was the original intent, was it not? Weren't the women's tag team championships supposed to be across all 3 brands, and then they changed it? So going back to that would allow you more competition, give the tag team champions meaningful things to do. If they've, soaked up all the opponents on one show, they can go to another. And I'm very happy that WWE is having 1 set of women's tag team championships for the 3 shows instead of 3 sets of tag team titles for 1 for each show. It's a move in the right direction. And I think that they have set this match up not next week, but the week after. So in 2 weeks, that tag team title unification match will take place on SmackDown. And I have no doubt that Shayna and Ronda will murder them. They absolutely have to win this match. Actually, I take that back. It probably will be competitive because they've been having competitive matches lately. But Shayna and Ronda absolutely need to be the team to unify those. And I am 1,000,000,000% positive that they will be. And hopefully this can at least breathe a little bit of life into those tag team championships for the women. And maybe Ronda and Shayna can change the culture. We'll see if they do that or not. Now let's talk about Asuka's new championship belt. WWE advertised earlier on in the day yesterday that there was going to be a championship belt celebration or presentation for Asuka. So this is kind of hinting that WWE is in the middle of the process right now of cleaning up their championships. They're doing it with the women's tags, so that's great. Good job, WWE. Next step, figure out your women's titles, because you have named them after the brands and the shows that they're on, and they're on the opposite shows. AEW is going to run into the same problem as well if they ever leave Warner Brothers Discovery and they got these TNT and TBS champions, and then they go to fucking Lifetime. Oh, here's your Lifetime champion. Like, it's stupid. So WWE shouldn't do it. AEW shouldn't do it. Both companies are fucking stupid for doing this. So finally, WWE, it looks like, have realized that all these years later and realized that they need to change the names of the championships. That way, they're independent, they're neutral, and if you have drafts and you're moving talent around. You're not having to do belt swap scenarios like we've seen with the women and the tag teams a couple of times. It's infuriating as a wrestling fan to see them be so fucking lazy like that. So this is so much better. Adam Pearce is out there. He brings out Asuka and he unveils the new WWE Women's Championship. Now online, I've been seeing this referred to as the WWE Women's Universal Championship, but he didn't say Universal in the promo. At least I didn't hear him say that. He just said WWE Women's Championship, unveiled it. And of course, it's the exact same fucking belt that we have. It just has different colored shit in the middle. It's color neutral in the middle. It's not red or blue. It's gold, just like Roman Reigns' belt. So here's the good news here about this. Yes, that belt is fucking lazy, obviously. But what this tells me is, at least what I hope, is that on Monday, Rhea Ripley gets a similar segment, but her belt is going to be Seth's belt with like a white strap. That's what I hope. Because if it looks like Asuka's and Roman's, then Seth's is going to look out of place. It's going to look weird or whatever. I think Rhea Ripley should get a women's version of Seth's belt, of the big gold. Maybe a tiny bit smaller, WWE logo in the circle in the middle, and maybe a white strap on it, just like Asuka's. That would be perfect. That would make me happy. Yes, the belt design is kind of lazy, but hell, at least we got a new design for the World Heavyweight title. It looks a little bit different. And hopefully Rhea Ripley will get the same thing. So this makes me optimistic for Monday or maybe another week, whenever they do it, that Rhea Ripley will get a new belt as well that will be called, I guess, the Women's World Championship. Is that what they're going for here? They're going for the World Championships. You know, Seth has got the World Heavyweight Championship. Rhea will have the Women's World Championship. And then Asuka will have the WWE Women's Championship, or will she have the WWE Universal Women's Championship? I still don't know that. But regardless, they've at least cleaned up the titles and removed the SmackDown and Raw title or, words from the championship. And that's what they need to do. So hopefully Rhea Ripley will get a new belt on Monday. And then Owens and Zayn hopefully will get new undisputed tag team championships. But since they haven't done them yet, it makes me wonder if they're going to try to ununify these things again and create a world championship and a WWE Tag Team Championship like they used to have. So it feels like Triple H is trying to mimic kind of the format that they had in like 02 and 03, where they had WWE and the World's Championships for the tags and all that. And then you still have the IC, you still have the US, and now you have yourself in a position where you can move these people all over the fucking place and put guys on Raw, SmackDown, and you don't have to worry about any championship lineages being screwed up. So this makes me happy. What doesn't make me happy is that this is now the 5th, count 'em, time that they have unveiled the same damn belt. And I saw a lot of people like defending the belt. Oh, it's a beautiful belt. I don't know what anybody's talking about. My problem with the belt isn't, I guess, the look of it. On the surface, it's not really an ugly belt. Hell, up until WWE got really, really obnoxious with their promotion, their branding, I've always liked the WWE logos. Look at it. It's back there hanging on my shelf, the WWF Scratch logo. Their logos have always been really good looking. I've liked them. But when you unveiled that title in 2013 with the big WWE logo, what that meant is now these championship belts have reached their ceiling. We can never see, how much more creative can they get now? When you make it a point to where a big W has to be in the middle of whatever championship belt you make, there's nowhere to go. There's no more creativity to be had. It's lazy. Hulk Hogan, we just talked about him in the Iron Sheik just a little while ago. In his first run, he had 4 different belt designs. He had the one he beat Sheik for. Then that changed to whatever belt he was carrying around the time of WrestleMania 1. Then he had the 86 belt. And then he had the Winged Eagle on the last night. 4 championships he had. And you don't want to keep changing your belts up all the time or anything. Belts should last a good 10 years or whatever. But whenever you want to do a redesign now, like if you ever want to redesign Roman Reigns' WWE Universal, what the fuck is it called? If it's undisputed, what's all the fighting about? If you're ever going to change the design of Roman's Universal Undisputed title again, what can you do? You can't do anything. There's nowhere to go because whatever you do, it has to have a big ass W on it. So you can maybe change the shape of, maybe it can be a circle and a big W in the middle. Bottom line is you have stripped away any potential for creativity when you when you make your belts like that, because we know they're never going to go backwards. They're never going to shrink the W. They're going to want their logo front and center, because Super Bowl championship teams carry this shit in front of 90 million people once a year in January or February, whenever the fuck the Super Bowl is. So my problem with the belt is that we have now reached our ceiling. You can't do anything else. It has to be this way forever. Where before, think about how different Hogan's 84, 85, 86 belt looked compared to the Winged Eagle, then the Big Blue looked compared to that, then the 02 Undisputed belt looked compared to that, then the spinner belt looked compared to that. We've gone through big, significant changes. Not all of them good. That spinner belt was a big turd, but the changes are always kind of nice, and it's nice to get, things freshened up. And nowadays it feels like they've just reached the point where you can't go any further. And all the belts are going to look like this now. I joked on Twitter. I've always said that whatever championship belts were in WWE when you were the ages of 10 to 20 will be your favorites. Those be the ones you're always going to look back on with the most fondness. Well, in 25 years, a whole bunch of fans in their 30s and 40s are going to have some pretty shitty belt opinions, because they're going to really like and miss these days when I think these belts look like crap. So the belt itself, like I said, is not an unattractive belt. It still looks nice and all of that, but it's been the same thing, and it looks like we're never going to change that, because they have now unveiled, pulled a tarp off of the same belt 5 times like it's some big fucking secret. Ooh, look. Hey, this time it's blue. Oh, look, this time it's red. Oh, then now it's got gold shit in the middle. Like, it's the same belt. What are they unveiling here? All you had to do was have Asuka come out with it. So back in the day, they never unveiled any belts. You would just see the champion on TV with a new belt. That was it. There was no unveiling to do. And to see them unveil it time and time again just to show the same design is stupid. Fucking stupid. Anyway, that happened to Asuka. That's great. In the main event, we did see Jey Uso take on Austin Theory in the U.S. title match. We had Pretty Deadly showing up here to get involved. Jimmy Uso comes out and makes the save. We hadn't seen Jimmy all night. Comes out to try to help Jey Uso, but he's then nailed by Solo. And then he kind of gets back up, and as Jey is recovering and Jimmy goes to super kick Solo. Solo ducks. Jimmy catches Jey. He goes down. Solo takes out Jimmy, and Theory is able to pin Jey for the win. After the match, a little bit of arguing between Jey and Jimmy, and SmackDown was advertised as Jey Uso making his decision where he's going to stand. Is he going to align with Roman or stay with his brother? And we did not get that decision. So they false advertised us. WWE, you shitheads. But hey, I can understand. The Bloodline is doing big numbers. It's got a lot of interest right now. It's very fun. It's very compelling. And it's been holding its own. A lot of people, felt like it might have dipped a little bit after WrestleMania due to the Cody disappointment, and it did, but it's still maintained, its ability to keep me interested. And now they're just continuing to drag this out. We still have to see what they do at Money in the Bank. Maybe it's Jimmy and Jey against Roman and Solo. Because Jay's not going to be in the Money in the Bank. And this also feels like it's going to lead to another Jey Uso and Roman Reigns match. And maybe the reason they're doing this and centering so much around Jey is because they might actually have plans to put him in the main event of SummerSlam against Roman Reigns. So we'll see where they go. But the Bloodline stuff has been pretty good. And I guess that's it on the WWE side of things. I want to run through a little bit of AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday, another show that I was not home to see live. I should be home this week. If I am, we'll do a live reaction. Just not quite sure what I'm going to be doing. But this week on Dynamite was pretty good. It was, there's a couple half disappointing things as well. Now, the show opened up with Orange Cassidy defending his international title against Swerve Strickland. Now, this could have been a good opportunity to take the belt off of Orange Cassidy. I think Swerve would have been the perfect guy to belt up. I think Swerve should be a main eventer in this company. And I think him continuing to take clean losses on top of the fact that he never still has gotten his one-on-one match with Keith Lee yet. And they have booked, if I'm not mistaken, I've got it written down somewhere. I think next week, AEW has a 6-man, I believe, right? It's the Mogul Embassy taking on Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Keith Lee. So Keith Lee's going to be on the opposite side of the ring of Swerve Strickland, but they have still yet to give these guys a one-on-one match against each other. And I think that's really effing crazy. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Like, sometimes they can be so frustrating with some decent talent. Like I said, I'm not really too upset that Swerve lost here. I feel like he could have won the title, would have been great. But OC has been on such a roll, and I also feel like they're going to do Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door, so you probably want Orange Cassidy to be champion for that. I'm fine with all of that. But, you know, with Swerve, I feel like they're making a ton of mistakes. I feel like he's somebody that came from NXT in the hopes that maybe, you know, things would be better here in AEW, you know, after his release and stuff. But I feel like they've made a lot of mistakes with him. They have not pushed him to the level that he needs to be pushed. And I think Swerve should be a much bigger deal in this company than he is. And the fact that he still has not gotten that match and that payoff with Keith Lee in a feud or an issue between these two that's been going on for a year? And they've yet to do this match, yet to pay this thing off. Keith Lee's another guy they should be using a lot more of. And now you see these two guys on the opposite sides of a match against each other. Why don't you just book them one-on-one next week in the main event of fucking Dynamite? So sometimes Tony Khan confuses me. That's all I'm going to say. Yuta, Moxley, and Claudio defeated Trent, Rocky, and Chuck. So this is Okada's Chaos versus Danielson's BCC. Really hard-hitting match here and fun stuff, especially with the history of Yuta and the best friends and all of that. Moxley was choking out Romero while Yuta's pounding Chucky into the fucking dirt, and the BCC get the victory there. And I believe they have got a 6-man, right? Next week, it's going to be Blackpool against the Bucks and Hangman Page. So maybe some big Kenny Omega return will happen there. We're going to get run-ins out the ass. I'm sure Takeshita will run in. Omega might run in. We might even get an extra surprise or two leading up to Forbidden Door, maybe even Okada or something like that. Who knows? But something big is going to go down next week in that match for sure. The MJF and Adam Cole segment was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed this because MJF, I always like to see him in the ring with people who can just match him on the mic. That's why the CM Punk stuff was so good. And I think Cole is no different because Cole sweats no man. Let me tell you, when it comes to being on the mic, I feel supremely confident in Cole, no matter who he's in there with the ring with. This guy has eviscerated people on the mic in the past. And I don't think, I think MJF basically has met his match here. Now, this is really good. The only concern I had at first was that I kind of thought Cole and MJF would be coming later. I felt like this was going to be a summer feud taking place after Forbidden Door, going into All In, whether it's All In or All Out or whatever it is. I feel like Cole and MJF needs to be the match you have to have there. And the fact that they're starting this now makes me worried, although maybe it's a way to get Cole into Forbidden Door and then pick up MJF and Cole later. Maybe they want to plant the seed for this now and actually technically have the starting point in June. That way, if this angle runs even past All In, maybe even to Full Gear, you know, this can be an angle that's like a half a year long, and these guys can make some magic together if Tony Khan lets them and Tony Khan books this thing right. But so far, the opening promo between the two was a lot of fun, and they planted the seed for their issue here that will hopefully lead to a title match, even if Cole loses the Eliminator. So MJF puts over Cole hard, talks about what a big fan of Cole's he was in the Indies and the WWE, a lot of wordplay with Undisputed and shit like that. He kind of critiques his physique a little bit, asks what happened to him. He used to be the Panama Playboy, now you're the Panama Game Boy, and you just sit in your house looking like Gollum and you don't get any sun, and you used to have a nice body and now you look as frail as a crack whore, you know, all this shit. And he went on to say that Vince McMahon dropped Vince McMahon's name, dropped Shawn Michaels' name. I think he even mentioned the letters NXT. I can't remember. But then went on to say that Vince didn't see him as a top guy. And Cole just lets him say his piece. And again, it's MJF's shtick. It's what he does. These are the types of things you can expect from MJF. I saw a lot of complaining about, oh, like when wrestlers mention the dirt sheet stuff. I'm like, well, that's fine, but this is what MJF is going to do. And it doesn't matter if you don't like it. MJF is going to do it anyway, because it's what MJF does. And I think that's okay, provided it's not overdone with everybody. And I don't really think AEW does that. We are in the era now of the online fan, of the Twitterers and the YouTubers and the dirt sheet readers and the websites and all of that. So pretending that doesn't exist is almost more insulting than bringing it up. You know what I mean? So I don't really have a problem with that. And After MJF says his piece, Cole has his chance to retort. And he just basically calls MJF a troll. He goes, you come off like a troll and you're a world-class douchebag. He says, you can't touch him in the ring. And he goes, why don't we go in the back and piss in a cup and let's see who's natural, which was crazy. And the way MJF sold it, because I personally believe MJF is not on steroids, but the way MJF sold it like he was pretty cool. Awesome stuff. Went on to call Max a coward bitch, and that Cole is better than him and he knows it and all of them know it, and really, roasted MJF pretty hard here, which was great to see. And MJF is really selling. He's getting real red face and shaky. And then finally he loses it and he goes, fine, I'll beat you. You want to fight? I'll fight you and I'll beat you anytime. And Cole's like, all right, thanks. It sounds like we've got a match. And then I think later on in the show is when they announced that this week on Dynamite, which looks to be a stacked card, by the way, MJF and Adam Cole one-on-one in a championship eliminator match. So I guess this means if Cole wins, he gets a championship match. So a lot of people are like, holy shit, this is quick. This is really, really quick. And it is. I feel like MJF needs to be wrestling Tanahashi or something like that at Forbidden Door. And Cole needs to do the same. Hopefully Cole can work with somebody that's not MJF at Forbidden Door, because it's Forbidden Door. We need some cross-branded shit here. So I'm almost hoping, and it's weird that we're even seeing MJF wrestle on Dynamite. I'm almost hoping either number one, MJF gets out of this match and he's able to worm his way out, which means they false advertised us like SmackDown did last night. Or Cole loses. Maybe Cole loses. Who the hell? Okay, so like imagine that MJF and Cole didn't kick their shit off, right? Who did we have on our radar for Adam Cole at Forbidden Door? Is there anybody we've been talking about or that has been rumored to face Adam Cole? Whoever that person is, maybe they interfere. Maybe they interfere and cost Adam Cole the match. Adam Cole then faces this person at Forbidden Door, and MJF, they figure out a way for him to face somebody from New Japan at Forbidden Door as well. And then they do the Forbidden Door stuff, and then you pick everything back up in July. Then you circle back to it. Then after that's over, Cole and MJF come back together somehow, or Cole gets another opportunity, or there's a number one contenders match that Adam Cole wins, something like that that puts him on a path to face MJF in August at All In. And then you do the big title change there, or you stretch it out even longer for maybe the fall or something like that. But I personally want Adam Cole to be the guy to take the belt off of MJF, which is why I was a little nervous that they kicked all this shit off on Wednesday. I'm like, let's not do this now. Let's have all this. Let's have the title match happen sometime in August. But if you want to have a story between now and then, fine. But the fact that they're doing the match next week, I really don't want to see Cole win. Isn't that weird? I want to see him be the next champion, but I'm in a position where I don't want to see him win next week, because I feel like then you get the title match too early. Unless you do it right away, MJF retains, and then Cole wins the rematch later. You could do it like that. But I feel like this is happening a little bit too early. So maybe we get some interference or something happens that allows them to revisit this issue in another month's time or something like that. We will see. But good stuff from both on the mic. Looking forward to it. Jungle Hook had a hell of a match. Tag team match against Preston and Dralistico. This was a very bloody affair. Preston was busted wide open. Gnarly T-bone suplex through the table by Hook. This is as violent as I've seen Hook get so far. We had the snare trap on Dralistico for the win as Hook simultaneously chokes out Jose. So that was a pretty good finish there. Jose tore off his shirt, and Hook choked his ass out, and Jungle applied the snare trap on Dralistico, who had his mask all ripped. These guys got it on Wednesday. Good stuff there. After that is when we had the Tony Khan announcement. Yet another Tony Khan announcement on Dynamite. This time, first he announced Collision, then he announced the date the Collision would be on, then he announced the city it would be in, then he announced CM Punk's return last week on the show I was at, Second Row in San Diego. By the way, check out my review of last week's Dynamite, by the way. And now he's announcing the main event for that night. And it was a match that we kind of sort of had a feeling about. We knew Punk could be involved in a tag with FTR. That is the case. Punk is going to team up with FTR to take on Samoa Joe, a rumored opponent of CM Punk, Jay White, another rumored opponent of CM Punk, and Juice Robinson. So that's going to be your main event of Collision 1 week from tonight on Saturday. We will see. The announcement of Punk It's not the same as it was in 2021. He is not coming back under the same circumstances that he did after the 8 years off or whatever it was, coming back 2 years ago. Now coming back in the United Center, I don't think it's going to be the same welcome that he got. It's probably going to be very great and everything, but I think there is a portion of the fan base that did get turned off by Punk. His return announcement has not done much for the Canadian show ticket sales. Now, I do know AEW is running a lot of shows in the same market, and I do know that's affecting the ticket sales. One of these shows has like 900 seats sold for it, so it's not very much. And they're going to smaller markets, and they're staying put in markets for multiple shows at a time, which is going to affect that. So their Canadian tour is not looking that great, despite the announcement of CM Punk. And I think one of those collisions in Calgary has got the Owen Hart tournament final on it. So these are big shows that I'm hoping they pull some audience numbers for. But you're starting to wonder if, Punk being back, granted he has to come back and get cooking and get moving to see how it's all going to go. But I think there's going to be kind of a grace period there where there's going to be a portion of the audience not really sure how to feel about him, and he might get some mixed reactions from the crowd. And if those reactions are noticeable, he's going to have to turn heel right away. We'll see what happens there. Also on Wednesday, we had Konosuke Takeshita defeating Damian Ace in a very, very cocky manner and pinning him very cockily. I like this new Takeshita, kind of, even though I like nice, sweet Takeshita better. This guy's pretty fun. Callis cuts a big promo after the match, calling Kenny a cancer, and he says him and his new family are going to cut the Elite out. So he still has to add more members to this family, and a lot of that's probably going to come to a head at Forbidden Door, and then we're going to have Blood and Guts coming up. So this stuff is still to be resolved, and I think we might see Kenny Omega next week. Chris Statlander retained her TBS championship, defeating Anna Jay, which is fine. I love Chris Statlander. We all do. Jade Cargill was like never on Dynamite as the TBS champion. The only thing of significance I can ever remember her doing on Dynamite was the stuff with Nyla Rose. When Nyla Rose took her belt, I liked all that. That was good. But she was never on Dynamite. She was always defending on Rampage. Here, Statlander wins the belt. She's on Dynamite every week. Whatever. Jay White in the main event defeated Ricky Starks. Pretty good match here. Starks did have the win in the Rochambeau, but ref bump when he was applying that move. The Ass Boys showed up, attacked Ricky Starks, allowed Jay White to hit the Blade Runner. Ref comes to 1, 2, 3, and Jay White wins. So it looks like maybe the Ass Boys might be Bullet Ass Boys. I don't know. We'll have to see where that's going to go. But all in all, looked to be a pretty good Dynamite from what I saw. And like I said, this week looks good. We've got Tony Storm taking on Sky Blue, who won that 4-way number one contenders match or match for a title shot last night. We've got that Mogul Embassy against Darby, OC, and Keith Lee that I talked about. We have Wardlow defending his title against Jake Hager. That's kind of cool. Blackpool Combat Club versus Hangman Page and the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole versus MJF. That shit's half a pay-per-view right there. So that's a pretty good Dynamite on tap for Wednesday. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure my schedule yet for next week, but I think I should be here to watch that with you guys. Also, last night on Rampage, should be noted that Aubrey Edwards is about to make her in-ring debut. We haven't set this match up, or they haven't announced this match yet, unless it happens next week. I can't remember, but there was a segment last night where Aubrey and Karen Jarrett are yelling at each other, and they're not going to let Aubrey have a match because she's a referee and Karen's not a wrestler. And that's when Mark Briscoe tells everybody, simmer down. And he says that he is arranged for there to be an unsanctioned 6-person match with Karen Jarrett teaming up with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal to take on, get this, Mark Briscoe, Aubrey Edwards, and Papa Briscoe. So there you have it. I'm speechless. I don't know if that's for me, but anything involving Mark Briscoe and Papa Briscoe is for me. So I'm going to watch it just for them. That should be interesting. And you know what? Aubrey isn't terrible on the mic. She's not The Rock, but she's not Kalisto either. So not bad, Aubrey. Not bad. Here's what we got for Forbidden Door. Danielson versus Okada, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, and the big rumored match this week, CM Punk versus Kenta. You have to do that. You have to do that at Forbidden Door. Now, Kenta has been tweeting all week like, Tony Khan, give me the bag, pay me the money. This guy has done nothing but call CM Punk out for the last 10 years. I want to match with you. I want to match with you. Now all of a sudden it's give me the money. Probably because he knows he's losing. If Kenta faces CM Punk, Kenta will not win. So you're going to have to pay Kenta to lose there. So maybe he just wants to get a payday out of that. I don't blame him. It's going to be the most high-profile match Kenta is really ever going to have if he works this one with CM Punk. He came in just as CM Punk was leaving into the WWE, into NXT. What was his name there? What was his name? I forgot his name, but it was stupid, whatever it was. But yeah, Kenta and CM Punk at Forbidden Door would be great. I hope Tony Khan is able to work that out. And I hope Kenta understands that, sorry, fella, you have to lose this match. He is CM Punk. You are Kenta. CM Punk wins. Going to have to be that way. So it's going to be a great match. Kenta's awesome and everything, but he is not the star, the level of Punk. And if that match ever happens, Punk needs to win. But I will say this, the Battle of the GTS, I would like to see that move protected. It's not my favorite move. I actually kind of think it's ugly-ish, but like, I don't want to see these guys kicking out of each other's GTS. I think that whoever hits the GTS first wins. Punk shouldn't kick out of a Kenta GTS, you know, the man who created the move. And maybe Kenta can kick out of his. Maybe that's the compromise. You know, Kenta's like, all right, I'll let you beat me, but you have to hit me with 2 GTSs. But I don't know. Maybe a ref bump. Kenta hits Punk with 1, has him down, 1, 2, 3, no referee. Punk comes back, 2 GTSs to Kenta for the win. Who knows? But if Punk and Kenta happens, I think that can be super fun. But in the end, it's got to be Punk winning that match. 100%. Yes, Danny in Oak Park. It's Heidi, Oklahoma. That's what it was. Thank you. Oh, Hideo Itami. Hey, we were close. Heidi, Oklahoma. Or Heidi Okama. Hideo Itami. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for that. You guys know all this stuff. I always forget. All right. Well, guess what, man? I have reached the bottom of my notes. That makes me really happy. There was so much to talk about. I was worried that I would not squeeze it in 2 hours. So let's cruise to the chat here, see what I've missed. Deshaun Robinson chimed in earlier with $2. Thanks for that, dude. I'll be at Dynamite next week in DC. Can't wait. Right on, Deshaun. That should be fun. I think you told me that too, that you were going to that. And man, you got lucky with your card. I had a blast in San Diego last week, but I didn't have a card as stacked as yours. You got that Bucks and Blackpool and Hangman match and MJF and Cole. Even Wardlow and Hager might be mildly interesting. Right on, Deshaun. You were going to see a good one. I'm a little jelly. The Juliet 316, good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the $2 from you. I think you missed a queen-size return on SmackDown. I did. Holy shit, we got to backtrack. I forgot. Thank you, the Juliet. Thank you. Let me make sure there's no... the Script Keeper, did I get that $5 from you earlier? I can't remember. Our championships are being brought to you by the letter W, just like Sesame Street. Tell me about it. They certainly are. Well, the Juliet... Oh, sorry, I got to go... answer one more from MH Nova. $5 earlier. Peace, good mic work. The WWE belt changed 4 times between when I was 10 and 20. Winged Eagle, Big Eagle, Undisputed, and Spinner. Damn. Yeah, that's rough. But my belt is the Winged Eagle. Hope is all is good. Well, hell, at least that one counts. It was in your age bracket. But yeah, you went through a lot of changes. For me, I just had the one. It was Winged Eagle the whole time. Winged Eagle was when I was 10. The other belt started when I was 20. Crazy how that works. But thank you for that, Nova. Appreciate it. And the Juliet was so kind to remind me that when I was talking about my SmackDown results, the reason I forgot is because I was bouncing around the results here. I wanted to knock out the Money in the Banks, and then I wanted to talk about the belt and all that shit. I forgot to talk about, during that entire belt presentation, I went off on my belt complaining tangent there. During the belt presentation with Asuka, Charlotte shows up out of nowhere, makes her return, comes to the ring, and you know what? Gets a pretty decent ovation from the audience. As much as I hate to say it. And she comes out and says that she wants a shot at the title. And Adam Pearce says, well, you have to get in the back of the line. And Charlotte says something that's very true. She goes, I don't wait in line. I made the line, or I am the line, or whatever she says. And that's right. It's the same argument I've made for Cena and Roman and other situations when fans have complained about them. What did Cena do to get a title shot? I'm like, he's a 7-time former champion. I think 7-time former champions can get a title shot whenever they fucking want. And Charlotte has won what? 60? Are we up to 64 or 65 titles now for Charlotte? I forget. So she comes out there, and the funniest part is they've already done the presentation to Asuka. So Asuka's wearing the new belt. The old defunct Raw title is on the podium, and Charlotte says, I want a shot at that title. She points to the dead one. I'm like, the dead one? You can have that one. It's a replica now. Go ahead, take it, Charlotte. And off you go. Have a good one. You got your belt. You should have just given it to her. Asuka should have been like, oh, okay, here you go. Goodbye. It would have been adorable for her to do that. But Charlotte points to the wrong belt. Asuka tries to mist Charlotte. She ducks. She misses the mist. And then Charlotte catches Asuka with a kick to the face and what looked to be heels or something, and Asuka retreats. And now it looks like Charlotte might be getting a title shot against Asuka, but that didn't make Bianca Belair very happy, who's also been promised a rematch against Asuka and should get one for that matter. I mean, this is a woman who held the title for a year. How does she not get a rematch after that? Hell, even Hogan got a rematch after he dropped the belt. Everybody does. So I think that I would hate to see Charlotte take the belt from Asuka, but if she passed it over to Bianca, I would like to see that. I would like to see Bianca Belair get a good, clean victory over Charlotte. She's beaten all the best. Charlotte would be another notch on her belt, but I need something different from Bianca if that's going to happen. If the plan is to have Asuka and Charlotte and Money in the Bank, Charlotte wins the title, and then Bianca faces Charlotte at SummerSlam. On paper, that's a great match. But if Bianca Belair wins the title as that babyface character, the same way she beat Sasha, the same way she beat Becky, that's getting tiresome, man. And I think Bianca is way too good and way too talented to be pigeonholed John Cena like that. If you want to keep her a merch seller, an inspiration to young girls, and that type of thing, and a character designed for kids and the younger audience, fine, but you can't do that forever. And she had a long run with the title, a couple of long runs with championships. She's well established now to where I don't think you're jumping the gun by doing something different with her. And if you ever did want to pair her and Montez together as that Hollywood, cocky, gorgeous, talented, and rich couple, who's arrogant and all of that, they could play those roles beautifully. I think they'd be better at that than Seth and Becky, to be honest. So if that's the plan, that's fine. Any Charlotte being used to put over the new crop, Rhea beat her at WrestleMania, Bianca beating her at SummerSlam. I'm fine with that. I got no issue with that. But I think it would be better if they tried to have some fun here with the women's division. We're probably going to get maybe a 4-way or something like that. I mean, because Bianca does not appear to be in the Money in the Bank. So unless she qualifies last minute, but probably not. So, you might get Bianca, Charlotte, and Asuka at Money in the Bank, because I don't think Bianca is going to be not booked for Money in the Bank. I mean, that's London. You got to have her there. She's one of your biggest stars. She's not going to be left off the card. So I think it's probably going to be a triple threat. Bianca, Charlotte, Asuka, which honestly, that could be fine. And then if you put the belt on Charlotte that way, whatever, you can do something big at SummerSlam with maybe her dropping the belt or maybe her not. I don't know. Point is, I don't think it would kill WWE to have Charlotte come in and work a program that's not for the championship every now and then. Like, we wouldn't be mad about that. You can totally do it, WWE. This idea that she has to be involved with the title every time. I know we've seen that so many times before with her other major icon stars, the Romans and the Cenas. It's what WWE does, but their inability to conceive any sort of angle, storyline, feud, or issue for Charlotte to be in that doesn't involve a title is a little bit fucking lazy. Because if Charlotte is as great as a performer as she is, she can have compelling storylines. Why don't you try giving Charlotte a story for once? She never has a story. She's always just fighting bitches and winning. That's all she's doing. Winning all the time, championship after championship. And even when they've tried to get personal, it's sucked. They've brought up, Reed Flair before in promos, and there's never been anything really compelling that Charlotte has done. Maybe it's time for Charlotte to start a faction. Roman Reigns is his tribal chief of the Bloodline. Maybe Charlotte should do something similar. We never got the 4 horsewomen, but maybe Charlotte now, in the position that she is in, she can use her name and value as rub for younger talent or people coming up from NXT. You know, when God bless Sol Ruka, I'm a big fan of hers. When she gets healthy, I think she's dealing with a knee injury and she's ready and main roster ready. I'd love to see Charlotte befriend her, you know, and then realize, like Farouk realized when he brought The Rock into the nation, that this guy's better than you. And that would be an interesting dynamic, you know, something like that, where if you gave Charlotte a faction or an alliance of some kind, we've never really seen her in a group, right? You know, so maybe if she was the leader of a faction, that could be something for at least the fans to sink their teeth into, because I feel like since Charlotte came in 2015, she has done 8 years of the same shit. Whether she's a heel or a babyface, there's really no difference in her presentation, you know, in her gear, in her look, in her style. It's all the same. And I've always been a big fan of Charlotte. I was a fan of her right from the start. Loved how athletic she was and how good she appeared to be, but she really got hammered down her throats. And like we saw that happen with Cena so much, you can only defend this to a certain point. And with Charlotte, I feel like if she is as great as WWE wants her to be, don't give her just repetitive shit to do year after year after year. I cannot tell the difference between a Charlotte face run and a Charlotte heel run. They look the same to me. So if you gave her something else, that might be more fun. But right back in the title picture, here we go again. Again, something I'm not going to waste my time complaining about, because as long as we've been watching wrestling, we should understand by now how WWE does things. And for the fans to flip out on Twitter, oh, she's getting a title shot again. I'm like, have you not been watching this company for the past 15 years? The fuck do you think they've been doing all this time? This is exactly what they do. It's not new. It's not different. It's what we've all come to expect. Yet people complain like it's the first time WWE's ever done this. So, of course, Charlotte's going to come back and be right in the title picture because she's Charlotte and they're WWE. That's how it works. So anyway, Charlotte's back. Thank you for reminding me about that, the Juliet. Yo, Spectra chiming in with $5. Thank you so much for that, my friend. I can't wait for an MJF Cole feud, but now isn't the right time. It either means missed chance of MJF versus a New Japan guy or a short feud. Should be better after Forbidden Door. Well, hopefully, Spectre, you were just listening to everything I said about that, because I did pitch an idea for the match on Wednesday to have maybe a New Japan guy interfere, cost Cole the match. Cole faces him at Forbidden Door. MJF faces somebody else. And then you revisit Cole and MJF in the summer leading into All In. I still think that's a possibility. And I'm not convinced that they're going through with this right now when it's going to be a short feud. I'm hoping this is going to be a long feud. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that. Tony Khan, a lot about his booking I like, a lot about his booking I don't like. And this could potentially be one of the things I don't like. But I'm going to hope that they have a bigger and better idea. I mean, the frustration I feel with stuff like Swerve and Keith Lee and everything sometimes doesn't give me a ton of confidence in that man. But I just don't know how you put Cole and MJF together and it fails. Those two guys are too good. And I hope that the angle and the feud is one that can be compelling and one that will last. I'm hoping that they're not like, you know, like getting it out of the way so MJF can go work Punk or something like that, you know? Like, I'd rather have Cole and MJF do their thing and then maybe Cole and Punk wrestle for the title down the road. That would be fucking incredible, but we will have to see. That is going to do it for me this afternoon. I want to thank you guys for being here and joining me for these 2 hours. Please do me a favor, click that thumbs up button on your way out the door. The audio to this will be posted on my website later on tonight. I'm not going to have time to do that now. So that'll be up later tonight, probably 6 or 7 hours from now. You will be available to hear this on all the podcast sites. And like I said, join us tomorrow for WWE Summerslam 1991 watch along. We go live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And I don't know if we're up against a basketball game or not. If we are, we will watch both. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you tomorrow for the watch along. Peace.